Hello everyone, Earthangel here. How you doing? Hopefully you're doing great. I want to say welcome in. I had an epiphany, and I actually was getting ready one morning, and I heard, "I need you to go over the steps of awakening stages." And I said, well, I'm talking to God. I'm like, the Holy Spirit's talking to me. And I'm like, I have went through the stages, speaking about the stages of awakening while I was awakening. And this was years ago. But sometimes you don't hit or speak about everything that happened to you. And I'm noticing that just because I went through awakening doesn't mean that everyone went through awakening at the same time. There are many of us who have went through the stages of awakening, and there are people who just could not understand when you try to speak to people, you know what happened to me, or I've been feeling this, or I went through, and they look at you like, what are you talking about? Yet some people, they could relate to you, everything that you spoke about, or just about everything. They could relate because they were like, oh my gosh, you're going through it too? I was feeling this and this and this, and I didn't know what was happening. So, speaking about awakening has helped open the eyes of many people. Now, there are some who are now, some of us are now in a different stage of awakening. And awakening, how can I explain this? When you're on Earth, the 3D dimension, a lot of us were sitting there. Third dimension, not awakened to what's going on in the world. We're thinking happy-go-lucky thoughts. I know I was. And not realizing the things that were going on around me. So the first stage of awakening, you actually start feeling as if something is wrong. And you're like, I keep getting this feeling like I can't pinpoint it. I can't put my finger on it. Or something might be troubling you and you just go, and then you get through it, right? And then you're like, okay, I don't have that feeling anymore. I'm okay. But that feeling comes back, right? There are some who have a stomach ache. And when I say a stomach ache, I kept getting this piercing pain in my stomach. And I was like, what is happening? And I automatically I thought, something is wrong. Something's not right. And I, try to talk about it. I work through it. I get through it. And then the next thing I know is I finally get through it and I'm okay. I no longer have that piercing pain. And then days would go by and it would come back again. I'd have that piercing pain in my stomach. And I'm like, what is happening? Well, that's when you start feeling the effects that you're awakening. You're awakening to the truth of what's going on. people aren't treating you unfairly, or you're hearing, you start realizing something that you saw on TV, and you're thinking about it. You're like, wait a minute, that's not right. No, that's not true. Or it was something that you saw on YouTube, and you're like, yeah, they were fighting over blah, 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 or they were talking about this and that, and you're like, wait a minute, that's not what happened. Something that your teachers taught you in school, and you've been doing a lot of reading now, okay? You're much older now. You've been doing a lot of reading, researching, and you're realizing that that was only a myth. The teacher didn't know what she was talking about. She was just going off of the doggone books, right? What they teach year after year after year. They weren't changing what they were teaching. It just stayed the same. And you're sitting here going, you know what? The teacher said this and that. No, that's a myth. That wasn't true. Or you talked about the president, and you're like, that's not true. Then they talked about algebra in schools, and you're like, some of that was not true, what they were teaching. And the things that you start going in your mind, you start thinking about things. You know what? They taught us math, and and they taught us this reading. They taught us science. They taught us social studies. We had gym. Some of us had like Spanish classes or biology. Or you're learning something new, right? Sewing, how to cook. Some people were welders. Some people built, and you're like, some of the things in school, they said you're going to need it when you get out of school, when you get older. And then you went to work your first corporate job or your first job, and you're like, all that stuff that we went over, we were tested on, I don't need any of it. Or I may need the math, I may need the spelling, but they didn't teach me this. They didn't teach me to type. And I've got to know, I've got to pass a test with a certificate of 35 words per minute. These are things that you learn when you're 18, 20, whatever. When you're starting out, and you're like, some of the things I learned I really didn't need. However, there are things that I didn't learn that I need. Back then, compared to now, as far as what you learned in school for math, you learned how to write a check. Okay, how to write, this is, your parents write checks, and this is how you write it. Oh, I felt empowered. I was like, great. However, one thing that we did not go over, and we did not spend a lot of time on, you had to pay mortgage or rent. These are your actual bills. Your job may pay you this much money, but all these bills have to be paid. And in order to be able to pay your rent, this is how much you need to make. Not just rent, but food, and you have utilities, and you have clothes, and you have to put gas in the car, and there are many things that we did not learn in school. But now the children are saying, yes, we did learn this. That's what helped me on my road to success. Very helpful. Now, there are things in awakening that you may remember in your childhood. And when you awaken, you're not just thinking about when you went to school or your siblings. It was how you were raised. Did you go to church every Sunday? Some people say we went to church every day. We lived in the church. Is it something that they need now? They're like, there are some that say, oh, absolutely not. I'm not even going to step my foot in the church. Well, there are some, I'll go, but it'll only be on Sundays or something like that. It's not as, things change. Your whole mindset changes, right? The things that you learned from your parents, from your siblings, maybe you were raised in a home where your parents parented, but they didn't show you love. So you might have lived in a home where you didn't hear, I love you every day. Or you're doing great. Giving you that confidence, the motivation, the inspiration to move forward in life. Maybe you had many siblings. And I'm going to tell you this, when I was growing up, we didn't say I love you. We just didn't. But we knew love was there. We loved one another, right? And I remember when I got older and I got out of school, got out of high school, been working for a while. I don't know, I may have been, I can't remember how old I was. And I remember having a conversation. My sister and I had a conversation with my mom. And I remember asking, how come we never said, I love you? And she said, well, we did love you, but we never said to one another, I love you. It was just automatically there. And we felt love. Don't get me wrong, you feel it. But we didn't say it to one another. It wasn't until we got older and then we started to express ourselves more, speak more about our feelings. And, we'd have get-togethers and we would leave that and we would say, I love you, Mom. Or we'd tell our sisters or our brother, I love you. I love you. We all started saying, I love you. That was, oh, man. I remember that. It's a great breakthrough for us. There are things that you learn in childhood when you go back and you think about the things that may have happened or, shall I say, occurred. You wish you can have those days back, or you're glad that your life has changed, where you no longer have to deal with what you dealt with in your childhood. There may be some who have continued to deal with what they've had to deal with in their childhood till now. This could be traumas like rape or learning to steal and you are put in jail. You're in jail, in and out, right? It could be how to cheat a corporation. It could be, or a business partner. It could be just about anything. It could be what was said to you from a teacher, from someone who you thought was, that you looked up to, how they treated you. And you have awakened now and you're like, the way they treated me wasn't right. Or I'll never let anyone treat me like they treated me back then. There are some who are having problems with, your parents may have taught you, if you give them money, if you give your friend money or give someone money, they'll always be your friend. And that may be true, but it has also taught some people that they do not have to be independent. What they have been taught is they can always come to you for money. You'll always have their back. What you have taught them is they'll always have the money for me. I don't have to pay it back to them, right? Especially if you're a person who gives. I like it. That's who God has made me to be, a giver. But I've learned over the years that people think that they can walk all over you and they can do anything they want. They can take from you. They don't have to pay it back. They don't have to give back the love you give or the respect you give, the loyalty. They're thinking, I don't have to give that back. I can continue being the way that I am, right? And so you learn through life, through your whole stage of awakening, you learn. Whether it's with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, whether it's with a husband or a wife, whether it's with your parents, there are people who have awakened to, I want to be better. Excuse me, let me turn off my alarm. I want to be better than my parents were. Or I want to be better, treated better than when I was with my ex. I deserve so much more. Even in work, the respect from another. I remember having a conversation with this one lady, and I'm like, some people think that they can boss you around, they can talk to you any old type of way, and I remember looking at people like, what do you think I am? It was not until I had my son in my 20s, I realized, look, I have a child. You are not going to treat me as a child. You're going to treat me with dignity and respect. As you get younger, I shouldn't say older, I would say younger, it's important for you, you're learning from experiences, right? I do not wish to be put in that same category or that same position, that you put me in before, or that other people have put me in. Like I said, I used to, I liked being the one. If I could help you, I would. If I had the money, I would help. I would. Because I loved you so much. But I learned people who don't pay it back, but then they turn around, 6 months, a year later, and they can't pay their rent. Or they're behind in their rent 2 or 3 months, or their bills. You learn. At first you're like, okay, whatever it is, I'll help you. I'm not going to give my last cent, but whatever it is, I help you. But then over time you learn that, and you tell them, and you have this specific, you're speaking with them, and you're saying, look, it's important for you to pay me back. If you want me to continue to do this to help you, help me help you. So paying me back, I'll be more than happy to help you. But when you don't pay me back, I learned a very valuable lesson. And I finally told that person, I finally cut them off. This was years later, but I finally cut them off. And I said, And they're saying, I'm going to lose this, or I'm going to lose that. I've been given to you all my life. I've been helping you all my life. And when I think about it, all the money and the time, the effort that I've been putting in to help you could have been a great savings account for me. To be truthful. I'm not going to lie to you. Would have been a great savings account for me. But I was all about helping another until I learned, ixnay, cut that off. But if you're a person who borrows from me and you pay me back, and you've got that mindset, and I say, oh, you can pay me back in payments, that's fine. I trust you. I believe in you. And you're the type of person who is like me. You're like, oh, nope, I'm paying you back in a month. I said 30 days, it's going to be 30 days. I understand that you are giving me more time to pay back this loan, and I appreciate that. But I have respect for you, and I'm going to pay you back in 30 days. I said 30 days, and I'm going to keep that. I appreciate those so much who are like that. I really appreciate you. In awakening, you see the changes. You feel the changes. You start feeling your intuition working, and you're saying, whenever I'm around that person, my stomach just goes topsy-turvy. I don't know what it is, but sometimes, or should I say a lot of times, you'll feel that. That's your intuition telling you. If you test it and you're around the same person, you can go around anyone else and you're fine, and you come back around this person who was supposed to be your friend, you are going to be taught a lesson about that person. If you're feeling funny about being around them, please know that there is a reason. Meaning, you probably shouldn't be around them. Excuse me. They could be a thief. They could be acting like your friend. A lot of us have learned that in the years. Through the years, we've learned that. Even now, a lot of people have awakened to, oh my gosh, I thought that was my best friend. I've had them around for like 6 years just to find out they have never been my friend. They're only around me because they wanted what I'm giving. You know, they wanted, you know, me giving out money, or they wanted to have me close because I helped them with their bills or with their rent. They wanted to have me close. Because when I need to have my car fixed, you know, and I don't have the money, they have the money. You start seeing things like that. It doesn't have to be a friend. It could be a cousin. It could be a sibling. It could be a grandparent. It could be anyone. You start feeling the change. Feeling like, you know what? I don't need to be around that person. Or I'm going to limit myself to being around that person as much as possible. Because I'm not their bank. Number one. They always come to me when they need something. Whether it's on a phone call and they just complain and complain and complain. But they're never there for me when I call them. And I thought they were my friend. Or, if you've noticed, you'll call them and they always have an excuse to get off the phone. They have to get off fast. You're like, at first you're like, okay. But then you got to start waking up and noticing what's really going on. This person does not give a flying hoot, a flying hoot about you having a problem with your boyfriend or had a hard day. They do not care. But they want you to listen to them whenever they have a problem or whenever they're in need. So you start in this first phase, you start opening your eyes and realizing that things are not as they seem. You start to realize what you should be around and what you should not be. So, with this first phase, I just wanted to share some of the first things that you will realize in this stage. This is the first stage. Now, there are many stages that you should go through. Some of us do not go from 1 to 2 to 3. Some of us will have 1 and 2 on the first stage, and then they'll go to the third stage. But I'm going to bring these stages to you one by one, because there are some of you, like I said, you are just starting and you need someone to lean on. You need someone. You're like, no, you're not going crazy. I'm going to tell you that right now. You're not going crazy. You're not. But you need someone, or you want someone to be with you why you go through this, because you have no idea what is going on. So I just wanted to share this with you. I love you all. Take care, and I will see you on the next video.